Hello, everyone. I am very pleased to be able to introduce DSI's newest functional capacity assessment documentation system. It is the DSI Productivity Suite. It is a sophisticated spreadsheet that behaves like software. The really good news is because it's not a cloud-based type of system, there are no ongoing fees once you've made your initial purchase. No monthly fees, no annual fees, no per-use fees. One and done. We will have updates from time to time, but it will be up to you to decide if you need any type of updates that we may provide. Currently, the Functional Capacity Assessment Productivity Suite is available in the one-day format. We do plan on bringing you the two-day format, but since the vast majority of you primarily use the one-day format, we didn't want to delay in getting this newest version into your hands. So let's take a quick look at the basic features in terms of how the system is set up for you, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail so that I can show you some things that I know you will appreciate in terms of being time savers, as well as features that eliminate the margin of error. Right now, let's take a quick look at how the Productivity Suite is laid out, and then we'll go into more detail to give you a better look of what you may consider purchasing. As you can see, we have several tabs across the bottom. We have a Start tab, which you're looking at here, that gives you a good understanding of the features of the Productivity Suite. Then next is the History tab, where you're going to enter information according to what you're familiar with doing. The Physical Examination tab, the Score Sheet tab, where you're entering in all of the results of the functional tests that you're completing, the Summary report, the Consistency checklist, and a sample consent form, which more than likely most of you already have in place. So let's start looking at some of the features of each of these areas. We'll start with the history. As you enter information about your client, this section will populate on each of your other documents. As you enter information that is necessary for completion of different sections of the functional capacity, you will see calculations beginning to take place, such as when you enter date of birth, the age will populate. You can see that you're entering information as you normally would in terms of physician, diagnosis, and then all of the sections for completing the remainder of the history form are free cell where you can type in the information. You have all of the space that you need to complete each of these sections. A new feature is that we are going to be actually calculating time for the sitting tolerance test comparison that is a part of the consistency checklist. So you need to get used to timing how long the individual is sitting during the history intake, and then making sure to document that. Another feature is to also document any recovery time. So if the individual is not able to sit throughout the history intake, then you would note how much time they needed to get out of the sitting position before they could come back and resume the history intake. Let's look next at the physical exam. As you can see, it's very similar in its features. You will find that the maximum adjusted heart rate is calculated for you based on information you entered on the history form. And then you will go ahead and enter your heart rate and blood pressure as per normal. A feature of the area where you're completing the physical examination is that you do have a drop-down box feature, so that when you find the individual to have that wide range of normal limits, basically the unremarkable examination, you can simply select that without having to fill in information under specifics. And if the individual has any substantial findings, then you can select something in the drop-down box that is indicating that, such as if they had limited motion or they were limited by strength, then you can enter the appropriate information under the specific section. Again, this is free text, and you can enter it in the format that you wish. Again, it's important to record the amount of time the individual was in the seated position for comparison to the sitting test later in the functional capacity assessment. We've expanded the section to a second page that looks at functional considerations and the relationship to the physical findings or physical limitations. As you can see, each section has the potential of being populated based on whether normal upper limits or some relationship to their condition is limiting the testing. That is coming from the score sheet, and I will show you that feature next. As we get into the score sheet, you can see that there are a number of drop-down boxes that make it easy for you to quickly indicate some of the common findings that we document on the score sheets. Also, there is an area for comments that is free text. An important feature of this new software is that comments, as we know, give support to what our observations are and ultimately what the limiting factor of the test is. As you document these comments, you will find that they are going to be transferred back over to the physical exam form for you automatically. A good thing to keep in mind here is the connection between the comments section, which is the more medical commentary that we are putting in our score sheets, which will be then transferred back to the table on the physical examination. Other features include the ability to advance your choices for the second sets on your lift carries and your vertical lifts by choosing a designation that we call functional. So as you make your decision on which values that you wish to repeat, you simply apply the term functional to it and it transfers that value to the section where the second set is performed, and then it's prepared for you to continue on and complete that comparison. As we move down to the push-pull section, some simple but time-saving features are present here, such as it does complete the calculation of the average for you. Again, you're entering in information under comments that is going to support what you are preparing for the physical examination. Again, you can see as you enter comments here, these will be transferred over to the physical form and populating the sections accordingly. Another feature we think you will appreciate is that when we get into grip testing, pinch testing, and hand coordination testing, the tests that DSI uses have been incorporated into the software so that as you enter the values for your client, it is calculating averages, it's presenting you with the normative range, and then it's also showing you whether they are within one standard deviation of the mean so that you can look at the ranking. All of this information is provided to you now for your review as you consider whether the bell curve is present and consider your comments for what the limiting factors are. This is a substantial time saver for you. We are very pleased to present that. As you look at the hand coordination testing, similarly, you can see that once you have completed the trials and entered in the raw data, it will convert that data for you to the standard score, and it will identify for you whether they are within the average range or not. So again, that leaves you free to review the information and consider what your comments will be. As you reach the conclusion of the test, you can see that the way that the spreadsheet has been set up is it's going to calculate for you the sitting time in the history and physical exam, as well as the seated time during the functional capacity assessment, and look at the percent of variation in preparation for giving you information in the consistency checklist. It also provides you with a total value for the standing and walking time throughout the functional capacity so that you can compare it to the expected time frame of 2 hours and 20 minutes and look for very significant deviations. We calculate the percentage of variance from the expected time of 2 hours and 20 minutes so that you can see whether or not the individual is significantly different in terms of being faster or taking longer to get through the test. Again, this is all the documentation of objective information that helps you to substantiate the recommendations that you will have in the summary report. The summary report itself is getting filled in as you are completing the subtests. When you get to the second trial of each item, then you will be indicating which values you are choosing for the occasional, frequently, and constantly column. So when we're talking about force demands, these are numeric values that you're selecting in the score sheets. And when we talk about the movement and position demands, these are the frequencies that are being selected. So let me give you an example first of the force demands. Let's look at the first lift carry. As you can see in trial 1, the decision of the actual weights to be tested was made. The individual was tested on each one, and then a decision is made as to whether it's light, moderate, or heavy. Once the test has been completed, then you go back and you make your final selections for what is your light, moderate, and heavy or safe upper limit. And when you choose those terms preceded with the word functional, you are telling the spreadsheet to send those values down for the second trial. So let's take a look then at what's happening at the second trial. So here you can see that the light lift remains optional, but as we look at the two higher values up to the safe upper limit, we see that 40 represents the functional moderate and 50 represents the functional heavy or the safe upper limit that we saw from the first trial. Those numbers have been brought down. Now you can retest them, and again you make a decision in terms of exertion level. Of course, what we're looking for is whether there's consistency between trial 1 and trial 2. So if there is, then you will select the term functional moderate. For example, if we tested 40 and we found that indeed it still reflected a functional moderate, we select that term. Then we retest 50. If we find that it continues to reflect the functional heavy or safe upper limit, we make sure these terms functional are selected, and then once that happens in the second trial, those values will populate the appropriate columns in the summary report. So in this way, you are reducing the amount of time to actually have to go back and fill this in by reviewing the documents a second time yourself. Let's look next at an example of how the frequency is selected for the movement and position demands. Let's look at stair climbing as our example for movement and position demands. Once the test has been completed, you of course would indicate whether or not it was completed with your drop-down box. The number of steps completed. There are some selections under pace. You can select the appropriate indicator, which in the case of our example, the individual was slow. You can record the heart rate. Then we need to consider whether they gave full effort, and again, your choices are full effort, refused, self-limited, or we find that they are unable to do the test safely, or it's been restricted. But importantly, what is going to get us over to an indication on the summary report is the with breaks and proper ergonomics section. So you will be selecting that they are not limited or not restricted. In other words, they performed stair climbing and it was, as would be expected, normal or unremarkable, or we're considering the severity of the limitation. If they are minimally limited in their stair climbing ability, but they do have safe ability to climb, then we would select frequently. If they're more substantially limited, and you will need to provide, in that case, some additional instructions, then you would select limited to occasionally. Once you make that selection, that is what will populate your summary report. Remember, your comments still reflect the physical limitations, the medical documentation of those limitations. And then we have the functional considerations column. The functional consideration column comes up with the second trial of each of the tests, and it is the information that is going to populate on your summary report. Remember, this information is non-medical and is intended to provide the reader information that is of value to helping that individual be more safe in the workplace. So as you can see, we've got stiffness and increasing discomfort in the low back being documented under comments. We have functional considerations being indicated as the individual should be allowed to self-pace. And you can see, therefore, when we go to the report format, stair climb is indicated under the occasional column with the self-pace comment under functional considerations. And on the physical exam form, you can see that the documentation giving more indication of what is limiting the individual is present next to the stair climb test. As you complete the subtests for each of the functional tests that you perform, the table will be filled out, including your functional considerations, and you also will be able to see what the effort level was. This is for you, this is not going to be included in the summary report itself. But as you're considering what you need to document in your comments below, this information will be readily at your fingertips in terms of effort level. Your sections for rating effort and also consistency are being populated as well. Here you can see the tally on full effort is 16, and there was one tested but unable section. And a feature that I think many of you will appreciate is that the consistency checklist is also being populated for you as you complete each of the subtests. Here you can see that the rating is an 8, and you have full ability to comment on that. This is an area where you have free text and you will type in your comments. The same is true in effort. Let's look at the consistency checklist. You can see we've expanded this so that you can see information from the comparisons in the functional capacity assessment. For example, the low-level activity scores are brought forward for you here so that you can see whether there's a variance. That is what drives the consistency rating. Remember, we're looking for a variance that doesn't exceed 20%. So that is taking place for all of the areas that we are looking at. Here is an instance where we did not have any scores. Remember, this was a tested but unable section. Therefore, there is an inconsistency because we are not able to do the comparison. So that is our no. Again, you see more comparisons as we go through. This information of where the scores are being derived from is put in front of you for consideration. Your bell curve graphs are put in front of you for consideration. If we have any ratings of no, we must consider whether or not there is an explanation for that no so that we can make mention of it in our report. In the case of 8 out of 9 being consistent, we know when we go back into the report that that would be an indication of a reliable work level recommendation. You would go on then to free type the recommendation section, which of course should include the answer to the referral question, which is brought forth from the history section for you here, and then any other information that is pertinent to the referral for the functional capacity. So I hope that gives you a good feel for this new productivity suite that we are pleased to bring to you. You can purchase it from us directly, and the information on where to make that purchase is provided below. Thank you for taking a look, and we hope you enjoy these features and the time savings that this productivity suite will bring to you.